Hi, my name's Nick, and I was addicted to porn, video games, and food.
But why don't you just stop? It's a choice to do things you get addicted to.
You see, I faced trauma when I was a kid, and no one knew except for my brother and I, and neither of us knew how to talk about it. So what did I do? I went to things that felt good that I knew, like food, video games, and you heard it, pornography.
But why would you do that?
I was a scared child, and I felt a lot of shame about what had happened, and I had no idea how to deal with that trauma. I knew no one who went through trauma themselves. I didn't know these escapes would consume my life for the worse. I just knew they felt good in the moment.
But why not?
You know what? I thought what you did too for years. And until recently, I thought addiction was a choice. Or a brain disease, but no one really knew which. There's a lot of theories about what addiction really is. Now I have a more clear perspective, and that addiction is actually a combination of a lot of things. And the best definition I can give you that I believe is that addiction is a response to human suffering. It is something that we use to bond with others. People go to what feels good and what they know to escape suffering instead of facing it. If you were to hang out with a bunch of friends who do drugs and they tell you how good it feels, what do you think you're gonna end up doing? Probably drugs too. But since you feel like you've tried everything, it feels like it's your only option, so you do it to bond with others and to use it as an escape. I still watch porn, I still play a lot of video games, and I still eat way too much food. And why? Because I haven't fully faced the trauma that I went through and healed from it completely. But I know that taking a step each day and sharing all of this will help me get through the healing process a lot faster and maybe help you guys as well. By using these escapes or addictions, I'm only avoiding the issue at hand and not really healing from it. And the only way for me to stop using these crutches is by facing the problems that I'm going through and healing from them.
But Nick, the news told me it was a choice or a brain disease.
That's because current science only looks at what you can observe and biological aspects of addiction. They don't look at you as a whole person. With experiences and a personal history, Dr. Gabor Mate talks about how a lot of people that he's worked with that are facing addiction had childhood abuse in the past that they haven't completely faced yet and healed from. There's an experiment a few decades ago that showed that addiction isn't just purely chemical hooks. It's also about the environment that you're in. This experiment was called the Vietnam War. 30% of the soldiers that went to the Vietnam used heroin or other addictive drugs. And the government was concerned because they thought they'd come back and there'd be hundreds of thousands of addicts on the street. However, 95% of the soldiers came back and just stopped using.
All the substances of abuse, whether they're opiates or cocaine or anything else, they're actually painkillers. Some of them specifically are painkillers. But physical pain and emotional pain. So when I work with addictions, the first question is always not why the addiction, but why the pain. And what you find is emotional loss or trauma. In the case of the severe addicts, as in the downtown East Side here, they were every single one of them traumatized. There's no women walking the streets here who had not been sexually abused, not even by accident. But you know, whether it's a sex addiction or internet or relationship or shopping or work addiction, these are all attempts to get away from distress.
Let's talk about another experiment that went by the name of Rat Park. In this experiment, they took rats and gave them an empty cage with water that was laced with heroin or cocaine and plain water. Through the experiment, they noticed that the rats would keep going back to the drugs and eventually overdosing. Then they took rats and put them in a cage with other rats and everything a rat would enjoy. When the rats were in Rat Park, they would prefer the plain water over the drugged water. This experiment shows that there's more to addiction than just chemical hooks. There are also environmental and social factors that are just as important to explore. However, one study does not make this set in stone.
Many theories on the causes of addiction, genetics to brain disease, to it being a choice, to social factors and the environment that you are in. There is no one solution or absolute cause. Because as individuals, we're all different. We go through different experiences and are surrounded by different environments. And we are all made up of different genetics.
What we can do is stop shaming addicts and instead learn to love them. This is not going to be an easy thing to do, but showing love towards addicts will help them face their addiction and to do what is best for them. Shaming addicts only hurts and doesn't help. Society's attitudes have changed from shaming people who are fat, so why do we still think it's okay to shame addicts?